Interesting take on tech. Let's talk to one such company. We've got Srinivasan Nadadhur, who is the CFO at E-Clerx Services, joining in to discuss their outlook in terms of growth, recessionary concerns, as well as client spends. Thank you so much for taking time out. Now, given the fact that the demand environment in the wake of recession and slowdown fears does seem to be a bit muted, US is about 70% of your business. I understand Europe about 22% of your revenues. Walk us through the impact on your demand.
Right. Firstly, thanks for having me on the show. What we are seeing is still stories of caution being played out. People are wondering what's going to happen, especially in client markets. What is going to happen when and if a recession actually happens. In Europe, I think the fears are a little more pronounced. So we may see a little bit of slowing down in the work that comes from Europe, and we are seeing now some amount of delays in contracts being signed. But in the US, all we are seeing at the moment is caution. We have not seen any significant results in terms of demand slowdown or clients being reluctant to spend or clients tightening their budgets. Nothing of that sort we are seeing in the US.
To put it in a nutshell, in Europe, you are hearing from your clients that there is going to be a bit of a crunch when it comes to spending for next year. Is that the takeaway?
Right. Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. So talk to us about the margin picture as well, because in Q1, of course, it nosedived by around 700 basis points, given the fact there was an impact of wage hike that time around. Going forward, should we expect a bit of sharp reversion as well? And will you be able to defend that 28% guidance that you had initially laid out?
Yes, so Q1 was down because of wage increases, and this year wage increases were higher than usual than previous years. I think the attrition situation has moderated somewhat. Demand has, in startups, etc., has slowed down a bit. So for all ITS companies, I think attrition levels are trending downwards, and that should help in maintaining margins. We also think that because return to office will be a little more prolonged affair. I think just today or yesterday, Mr. Piyush Goyal said that they're considering about 100% work from home for SEZ units. So if that comes through, then costs of refurbishing the offices, housekeeping, security, those may not increase as much as expected earlier. So that should also help margins. We are confident, given given what we are seeing about attrition, and given the overall prevalent scenario of demand and supply, that 28 seems reasonable enough to defend.
Just coming back to your earlier point when you talked about that there are some sort of cuts which you are anticipating might happen next year, just wanted to get a bit more color. What kind of cuts are these? Is it 0 to 5%? Is it going to be 10-15% cut? Just help us brace in terms of what's going to happen in the coming calendar year.
Unfortunately, that's something that even I don't have much visibility into. I think it depends on how sharp the recession, if there is one, will be. So I think we will have to wait for a couple of months to see how that actually plays out.
Fair enough. Now, what about the demand from the retail vertical, analytics and the automation business? Is that likely as well to be vulnerable to recession?
I think that analytics is discretionary spend. So in my opinion, barring the entry level part of it, which is, if you can call it as a digital spend, and that is something that is non-discretionary, companies will continue to go digital. But at the higher end of the value chain, the work is more discretionary in nature, and that is, I would say, more vulnerable to a recession than the other keep the lights on businesses.
I'm guessing the growth rate at analytics and automation will moderate quite significantly. Also wanted to understand how's the ramp up of the Personiv acquisition really playing out, because you have had to make a couple of earn-out payments. Is that trend likely to continue? And you're sitting on a decent amount of cash on your books, around 600 crores thereabout. More acquisitions on the anvil?
So to answer your first question, the acquisition has played out very well, especially in terms of selling E-Clerx services and having them delivered out of Persona's location in Manila and in India. So to that end, we are pretty happy about how these synergies are playing out. In terms of earnouts, we made one provision in Q1, and the provision, we believe, accounts for the growth that Persona will have till the end of this year. So unless they exceed our expectations, then we will not need to make another provision. If they exceed our expectations, then that's a good thing, and we may make another provision maybe in Q4 or Q3. And to your, what was the other question?
Acquisition on the anvil.
On inorganic acquisitions, we continue to look, but these things can take a long time. Sometimes they happen overnight. So we continue to look, but I think valuations are just about now becoming a little more reasonable, I would say.
Reiterate a little bit in terms of the trends for headcount, wage hikes, hiring, attrition, etc. If you could walk us through what that at present is like and what the outlook is.
This is for the industry. Sorry, I missed the first part of the question.
For the company in specific, I'm asking, not the industry.
So the attrition has gone down. I think we had reported about in the 40s for Q1 annualized attrition. And usually Q1 is our highest attrition quarter, because we just about paid wage hikes and bonuses, and people leave to look for other opportunities. And we've seen that taper down in the 2 months of Q2 that we had. I expect that to go down further as well. I think you had another question on the cash on the balance sheet. And usually our capital allocation policy is that we will return about 50% of cash to shareholders unless we require it for inorganic purposes. And our usual way of returning cash is via buybacks. So assuming we do not require the cash for any acquisitions, then we will probably return it back.
And that is something that you're likely to do this quarter itself? The buyback?
So the last buyback was completed in November, so we cannot do anything for 12 months after that. So anything that we do, if we decide to do it, will only be after November.
Okay, fair enough. And just before I let you go, wanted to understand what the onshore-offshore mix is going to be like going forward. It had moved towards offshoring quite a bit. Where is it likely to trend?
So right now for us, it is about 80% offshore and 20% onshore. And I think this will continue for at least the medium term.
Mr. Srinivasan, we'll let you go on that note. Thank you so much for making time and speaking with us today.